everybody, and welcome to another episode of Y'all We Read It. My name's Laura. I am one of the hosts of this podcast.
And my name is Meggie, and I am the other host of this podcast.
And we are just as important as the other one, cannot be without each other.
Yep.
We are on our 11th season of our late and great podcast where we read young adult novels. This season we're reading the One of Us trilogy by Karen McManus, and you have caught us on book 2. One of Us is next, and Meggie and I are devouring this series in every positive way you can imagine. I'm loving these books so much.
Yeah, and I was kind of surprised. I didn't tell you this, but I went out with someone last weekend and I said that we were covering these books, and she was like, "Oh, I think I read that one, like the one where the guy dies of a peanut allergy." And I was like,
Oh
my god, yeah." So, I mean, the people love it.
Do you think they're listening to our podcast, your friend that you were out with?
Maybe. Hi, Ariana. I told her that she could borrow an advanced copy of like the third book, feeling very cool about that. I was like, this feels very posh. Here you go.
Well, I mean, the third book does come out next Tuesday. So,
Oh my gosh, that's so
yeah.
exciting. That's not what the
Yeah.
book that we're on right now. We're on the second
No?
one. We're also joined in the studio by my Barney Stinson mug that I've left
Yes.
upstairs for 3 weeks. Just, keeping Neil Patrick in our thoughts.
Yeah, you gotta love to look at a mug. Everybody has a favorite, you know?
I just kind of like him as like the idea of a fan. We have one fan always in the studio with us, and it's Neil Patrick Harris's Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother.
You know, that's a path that you're going down, Meg, and I love that for you.
I'm not endorsing his character. He's bad. It's just the mug I have up here. You know?
It's okay.
You know
Hey, somebody had to buy that mug, and somebody has to have that mug on their desk during their podcast recording.
I didn't buy it. It's just here.
I just said somebody had to. Like, it's not like it just showed up randomly at the house you're at, you know? Somebody at the house bought it.
This is our One of Us's next moment of trying to the murder mystery of who bought the Barney Stinson mug. I don't know.
It's a stretch, but I'll allow it.
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay, diving into this book, I will say after the last book, I was like, where is this trilogy going to go next? And I wasn't expecting to completely get a new cast of characters.
Oh yeah, it was really nice because at the beginning of the book, you get refamiliar with the old characters and the new characters in basically a screenshot of a text message like iPhone, and you see all their names and
like a contacts list. Yeah.
Oh, contact list. That's what it's called. Yes, that. A list of all your friends in one place, contact list, and that's kind of like an easier way to refamiliarize yourself, like go back. And this book, like Laura said, takes a big 180 in terms of it deviates a little bit away from like someone running a gossip blog. That's not where it is, but I mean, it's a new plot that really works because I think it's a formula that works really well. Yeah. And I think it's great.
No, it's great. It's really cool to see that she was like, I'm going to take a complete step in a different direction. It's still going to be like a mystery thriller type, but it's going to be in the same world, but different, which I thought was really, really cool. I also felt like since, as we remember from our first book, we had all of those different POVs from the 4 different characters. We only have 3 characters we're focusing on right now. And I do felt like we lived with all of those characters a little bit longer each time we tapped into them for their point of view.
Yeah.
Which I really would love to know, like, if it's like, was it easier to just have less characters and stick with them a little bit longer? Or did the story just kind of call for that? That's something like that I think is really just, the book is a standalone book, which is cool. It's like, yes, it deals a lot with the first book, but it does exist in its own playing field, you know?
Yeah. So One of Us is next kind of comes on the heels of where the last book ended. It seems like the 4 of them are moving on from the incident where Simon has killed himself and tries to stage it on Bronwyn, Nate, Addie, and Cooper for his death. Doesn't really work. They've started living their life, and this book opens with 2 teaser chapters, which is something we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
One is a news segment indicating a student has passed, so, kind of
Yeah.
foreshadowing. And the other is this thread on a Vengeance is Mine forum that Simon used to
Mhm.
use, featuring an exchange about like wanting revenge between a Darkest Mind user name and a Bayview 2020 username.
Yeah.
And that's where we start this one.
Yes. And then we immediately tap into who our characters are going to be this book. So instead of our Bayview 4, we now have a little 3-person crew. One who we met last book, it is Maeve, who is Bronwyn's little sister.
Mhm.
And this is taking place, I think, like 6 months after this all went down. And then we also have Knox, who is like her, I want to say best friend, but it kind of just feels like they're friends by default in a way. They like dated briefly and now they just kind of hang out all the time.
Yeah, it
Um
doesn't seem like they have anyone outside of each other.
yeah, and then there's also Phoebe who doesn't really relate to either of them. They kind of all fall into the plot together and become a lot closer.
Yeah.
Um but we start with Maeve. She's getting texts from Bronwyn. We kind of get an update of where everybody's at. Bronwyn's at Yale. Addie is working at Cafe Contigo, which is a very big setting in this book.
Mhm.
And then Cooper's playing ball at State. I think
Yeah, he's at
as
Cal
they
State.
say.
Hmm.
And Nate's doing some classes at a community college, working when he can. So that's kind of where we hear about the other Bayview people that we grew to love the last book.
Bronwyn ended up at Yale. We all kind of expected that. And Nate and Bronwyn were trying to do some long distance, but they are on a break right now. But we do
Yeah,
get updates sometimes on them intersplice because obviously all of the characters interact with each other, which is pretty fun. And
yeah,
everyone is gathered at Cafe Contigo from the first book. Luis, who was Cooper's friend, it is his family's restaurant. And they are there to watch Cooper play baseball. They are freaking ready to go. He's doing really well. He's pitching a great game, and then they put in a substitute pitcher and they start losing, which is a bummer. But a lot of people are
yeah.
there to watch him, so kind of
Yeah,
fun.
Cooper's like a little famous boy now. Um but we also get a little tap in with Maeve here that she's still like very hung up on all these events that happened last year, and it's like, Maeve, it didn't even happen to you. Move on.
Yeah,
Um
I know, Maeve. Come on,
Maeve, move
live
on.
your own life.
Um
Stop living in Bronwyn's
exactly.
shadows.
Yeah, exactly. But then we get a POV from Phoebe who works at Cafe Contigo. She also lives across from Ashton and Eli, who are getting married soon. So she's across the hall from Addie. And we learn a lot from her really quick. So in addition to her job and living by Addie, her mom has a cake business and is helping out with the wedding. And her dad died 3 years ago.
Mhm.
She has a sister named Emma who is like just a hair older than her and is very, very serious and very mature. And she has a friend named Jules who, for lack of a better word, sucks.
Yeah, Jules does not seem to be thoughtful of Phoebe's feelings whatsoever. And
No.
Phoebe is going a lot because after her dad died in this like freak accident at a granite construction company, a slab of granite fell on him.
Ugh.
They really had to rearrange their life. They had to downsize to an apartment. Her
Yeah.
family isn't as close as they used to be. And that's kind of hard because they all were pretty close before. It's also emphasized that it's like they all have red hair, and without their dad, it doesn't really make sense because he had really red hair. So it looks like their mom is just hanging out with a ton of strange kids.
Yeah. Yeah, their mom doesn't look anything like them, so that sucks for their mom.
Yeah,
And also a thing about Jules is she's like really obsessed with like trying to get Nate to like her.
yeah.
And it's like to no avail. And we also learn about Phoebe is that she is hooking up with high school hottie bully
Hmm.
Brandon, and they love to rendezvous underneath the bleachers before school a lot.
Yeah, she's gonna be late to first period. She's getting like felt up.
Yeah.
He's a
Oh,
super
she's
hot
getting
douchebag.
fondled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like she's kind of torpedoing her life in lieu of her dad dying by hooking up with
Yeah.
probably the wrong people.
Yeah. We learn about Phoebe that like she works very hard to like
Hmm.
make money, but like she also like kind of tends to crave validation, it seems, in all the wrong ways, is kind of how I read it.
Yeah.
But we immediately get a plot point dropped on us, and we have a truth or dare page that is just launching. And this is coming after a lot of people have tried to create new gossip blogs. They all fizzle out. So this truth or dare thing is like just another one that they're chalking up to someone's trying to copy Simon. But it's a truth or dare text that goes to the entire school. And Phoebe gets an individual text to herself saying that she is the first person, pick truth or dare.
We go from this to being introduced to Knox, our soft-spoken, tall, langy king. I feel like he was very like string bean-ish.
Yeah.
And he is shopping for a wallet for his mom because he's an ally. When he realizes he's an ally to moms, he's like, I really need to get to work, and there's this like parking garage that people use as a shortcut between the mall and downtown. Basically, you have to like jump on a roof to essentially get across it. So he does, so he can get to his internship at Until Proven, that nonprofit law firm from the first book that Eli works at. And, he's just an intern there. He's doing intern stuff, fixing the copier, probably the
Yeah.
last one to eat cake. That's kind of intern stuff. You get the
I think
cake,
my favorite thing about Knox's intro is that when he's like he like makes his bus just in time and he ends up getting sucked into a conversation with an old lady,
Yeah.
and he talks about how he has nice young man face, so like every adult will just strike up a conversation with him because he seems like a nice guy. And I'm like, that is so horribly funny that like he's just kind of destined to be like, the guy that you want your like kid to bring home, but like your kid's never gonna bring him home.
Oh, I know, absolutely. And then he's probably
Yeah.
like always getting reminded of that by striking up conversation with these moms who are trying to set him
Yeah.
up with their daughter, and he's like,
He
that's
gives me like
okay.
permanent friend zone vibes. Like the guy would be like, if he was just like this, then I would date him. But like he's such a good friend,
Yeah. So that is Knox's truth.
Yeah.
He's at this job doing nothing when a truth text about Phoebe rolls in, and he's like, "Oh my god," because since
She didn't do the dare.
she didn't do the dare. And
Or the truth. Oh, I guess
or
she
the
did.
truth. I don't think she
Yeah. Well, I
responded.
guess she by default got the truth because she didn't get to pick. So
I would have a truth revealed about me by default because I am so fucking bad at texting people back that I would think it's like Bernie Sanders campaign
I'm
reaching out to me.
yeah. No, I feel like I'd be like, oh, I'll just like respond to this later. I feel like if it was an unknown number, I'd be like, block, like I don't know you.
Yeah.
But Phoebe's secret is that she hooked up with her sister Emma's ex-boyfriend. Yikes.
Yikes. Can
Scale
you
of 1 to 10,
imagine?
Maggie, how disastrous of a secret do you think this is?
I mean, I feel like that would be pretty bad, especially I
Yeah.
think when you're young and you're competing for men's attention. And you're like, oh my god, I cannot imagine being close to a sister in age in high school who is
Yeah.
academically better than me, like things like that. Like, I mean, I think on either end, you're going to be competing with each other. So I would feel like shit and want to kill her.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel like I would give it like an 8. It's like it's very high up there, but I still think you could get worse.
Yeah, probably. If it's like
Yeah,
they slept
probably.
together in the same night, then that might be a little bit different.
Yeah, or it's like if it was like a torrid affair going like on and on and on, like that'd be pretty bad.
Oh,
Or if
that'd
they
be
were like
pretty bad.
still hooking up. But I
Yeah,
feel like a one-time hookup, that's bad, but it could be worse. Maybe.
maybe. I don't know.
Let us know.
Possibly.
Let us know your thoughts, listeners.
Yeah, what do you think is worse,
I'd love
sleeping
to
with
hear.
your sister's boyfriend or dating the sister's boyfriend? Well, okay, that's not fair. People
Yeah,
are obviously
yeah,
going to be like
dating would
dating.
be, yeah, exactly. But
Anyways,
give us a number. Anyway,
news of this is getting through the community, and we switch to Maeve doing homework at the cafe, and she's kind of like wondering if she should text Phoebe a checkup. They're not that close,
yeah,
but she works at the cafe a lot. Phoebe literally is employed by the cafe. Maeve's just there. That's what I didn't get in
yeah.
the beginning. She just
Maybe
works
it's
there.
literally like, I guess we could be friends because I'm always here, she work here. That could mean friendship with female.
Yeah.
Um, but we also get another little side plot for Maeve. She gets a nosebleed this evening, and she starts to worry that her cancer is coming back, because we know that she had leukemia. Was it leukemia or lymphoma?
She had leukemia.
It was leukemia, and so she knows that was a symptom of the last time she relapsed, so she is worried that that might be coming for her. And as if she couldn't be more tempted to strike up a conversation with Phoebe, she does see Sean and Brandon like teasing her at lunch, and Maeve's like, maybe I'll step in, but then like Phoebe can handle it herself. She tells them off pretty
Oh,
swiftly.
it's great.
um
Sean, the asshole, kind of wanders
yeah.
over and he's essentially, I mean, it's all slut shaming, obviously, it's going to be
Oh
happening.
yeah, people in
And
the school are mean.
oh
Oh
my
my
god, they're
god.
so mean. Between like Cooper being outed as gay and then this.
Yeah.
But Phoebe handles it like a pro. Sean is like, hey, Phoebe, you want to fuck me too? And she responds, no thanks. If I want to be bored and disappointed, I'd watch you play baseball. Which I fucking
Get him,
loved.
Phoebe.
Yeah.
I know, I really like Phoebe as a character.
And they're
Um,
talking about this at lunch. People are like, should we just maybe tell the parents? And Phoebe is like, no, because then phones will get taken away and then people will blame me, which, yep, I would think the same
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, cover your ass, don't do it. We do get a POV of Phoebe after this. Emma has finally come home after this secret has dropped, and she is like immediately into Phoebe, asking her why she did it, what happened, and Phoebe just tells her, you know, it wasn't like while they were together, it was after they were broken up. She was drunk at a party. Derek, her ex-boyfriend, was there. They hooked up in like the laundry room at Jules's party. So
Mm,
very much it didn't mean anything. Phoebe does feel horrible about it.
yeah.
But Emma's not having it.
No,
Emma's pissed.
no, she's really upset.
Yeah.
World is shattering because unknown indicates the next player is going to be targeted soon.
Yeah.
So that's going to be chaos in a little bit. At Knox's house, he's got like 3 sisters and they all have K names, which
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of families do that for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why it makes it sound a little culty, you know?
Hey, we were almost a K family. We had Kelly and Kyle and then me, Meggie.
Keggy.
Keggy. So the K family that I never got to be, they are in their little house.
Yeah,
They're
this is you just being bitter about it.
So, anyways, Knox, whose name could start with an M, he is playing Bounty Wars. It's a video game, and his sister wants to get food, so they decide to go grab wings for dinner. It's noted that Knox doesn't really have a great relationship with his dad, who seems to put a lot of pressure
Yeah.
on him. But when they get to the wing zone, they notice that the head of Bayview's Wildcat mascot, the costume is on the inflatable chicken that is atop the restaurant, and he gets a text that says that it was achieved by Sean, the asshole
Yeah.
who Phoebe ran into at lunch, and that was his dare.
Yeah, and much like I always wanted to know what Jake was like hiding from us with Janae's big secret that like was being blackmailed.
Yes.
I want to know Sean's like what was Sean's secret? Like what was it?
I mean,
What dirt they have?
between him and Brandon, I would have assumed at least one of them took advantage of a woman in a state,
Ooh,
because
that's a
that's a pretty trope
ooh.
that rings true for I feel like a lot of high
Yeah,
school guys. I'm not just
that is
generalizing.
true. That is a good guess, I would say.
So I would have figured that. And you know
Ooh,
what?
yeah,
If that
if we
was
had
my
to put money
secret,
on it. And I'm gonna segue out of this real quick. We're
I got
gonna
real fast,
Ooh. We're
real
gonna hang up the
angry.
phone real fast on that. That's a spam caller. That is
Yeah, that's
a
fair.
scam likely. We do not like it.
But we voice
We're
intrusive thoughts sometimes on Yeah, we ready. We're a safe
hey,
space for
we're
intrusive
honest.
thoughts.
We're a safe space and we're very honest and transparent with how we're thinking and feeling. We're gonna check in with Maeve's point of view here. Bronwyn is home for the weekend. And Bronwyn is ever the planner, grilling Maeve about her future because, you know, Maeve has to go to college at some point and think about that.
Yeah,
Maeve
Bronwyn
doesn't
really wants her to go to University of Hawaii for some
I
reason.
don't know. I think yeah, Bronwyn strikes me as somebody who like hears one thing that somebody is interested in, and
Oh,
then somehow snowballs that into like a something that they don't actually
you
enjoy.
know what show she'd be great on? Extreme Makeover Home Edition.
Oh my god, yeah. Be like, so you like the color pink? So we actually put peacock feathers all around the room. And it's like, how did you get from point A to point B? That doesn't make
I don't know,
sense.
but Bronwyn's behind the wheel and she's gonna drive there. So
Yeah, yeah. And so Maeve is also not having this because Maeve also thinks she is relapsing. So she doesn't really think she's going to be like alive in a couple years anyway. And we
yeah.
also learned from Bronwyn is that she is hanging out with her ex-boyfriend Evan that she like dated in between Nate the like first time they broke up. So that's a big yo from me.
Yeah, Maeve is like, well, what is that going to mean for Nate? And Bronwyn's like, it's not going to matter. Be quiet. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, she's also like Nate and I aren't dating. Nah.
Maeve is in sleuth mode though. She's like, I got my blinders on. She finds Simon's revenge forum, Vengeance is Mine. It is alive and well, and the posts, they're not too sus yet, but they're still weird. At the restaurant, Luis disrupts her thoughts, comes up to flirt with her,
Is
and
this flirting? Is this moment flirting though? He asks her why she's always there.
listen,
Like brutal. That is brutal.
if my crush like in high school noticed me and was like, I've noticed, that would translate in my head to, I've noticed you enough times here that I've seen you, and I would feel seen. You know what I'm
Oh my
saying?
god. I would be so embarrassed if somebody literally came up to me and said, "Hey, why the fuck are you always here?" I'd be like, I feel like I'm here a normal amount."
Yeah, okay, you're right. I mean, now it's embarrassing. Back then, I would have been so excited that
You're
anyone was
right, you're
talking to
right.
me.
Maybe high school me would have thought differently, but present day me would be like, "Oh my god, I need to pick a new
Okay, so
spot."
Luis doesn't come up to flirt. He just comes up to state a fact. And but once he figures out that her and Knox aren't a thing anymore because her and Knox used to date, he is like, that's kind of interesting. So Phoebe comes over to clarify that Luis is flirting with her.
Yeah.
And she reveals that Emma isn't talking to her. But there's no time for any of this because there's a new post on the Revenge Forum website
Mm.
indicating from a darkest mind that Simon would quote love the game he's playing right now. So we're like, is darkest mind the person behind this? I would think
Is
he is.
we don't know. I would think so too. But we're not gonna get there yet because we're gonna shift over to I said Phoebe's point of view. And she is really clinging on to her friendship with Jules that is fleeting throughout this book. Um,
Yeah.
it's such a relatable feeling when you're just like, oh, our friendship has just like weirdly shifted, changing, and I don't really know what to do about it other than like really, really try to keep hanging on.
Yeah. I mean, you just
Um,
hope for the best and things get better, which
yeah.
is what she's doing.
Um, but Jules is not being a good friend once again. All she cares about is the fact that Nate's gonna be at the cafe tonight during Phoebe's shift. And she's like, "What do you think Nate will like?" And Phoebe's like, "I was reaching out to talk to you as a person. I do not want to talk about this."
Their phone
Um,
conversation is interrupted because there's a knock at the door and it's Brandon. And he,
Yikes.
uh, in response to getting ghosted for a little bit from Phoebe, does the very same thing of just showing up to her house, you know?
Yep, and he also does the very awful thing of straight up assaulting her in the hallway of the building where she lives.
Yeah, she slaps him
It's
because he's getting
Ugh.
handsy and it's bad. And this elicits her younger brother to come outside and see what the fuss is about. And Brandon is seething, basically saying, your sister's a whore. Bye.
12, Brandon! Leave him alone! Let him play bounty hunters in peace!
I know, seriously, poor guy. After
I
this,
know, we don't
Phoebe
get
has
to.
to go to the cafe. I would
I
not want to go to
know!
the cafe.
She has to work after this, and somehow this entire exchange of like seeing Owen and this whole thing reminds her of how her dad died, which we know was like a freak accident during a construction site where construction slab dropped on him.
Poor guy. Would hate
But
to go that way.
she's a working girl. She cannot process this accordingly, which like
No.
I hate for her.
Yeah.
And she has to go to work. The cafe is packed. And basically like the Bayview 4 is in like the back party room.
Mm-hmm.
And Nate and Bronwyn are there. They're flirting. Cooper's there. Everybody's goo goo gaga for Cooper. And
Yeah, they
then
are.
loser Evan shows up to like try to flirt with Bronwyn. He does get a reaction out of like Nate, which is what he wanted because Evan's a little fucking snake.
Mm-hmm. And he is telling Bronwyn that she left his sunglasses in his car, and as Nate is about to leave, Jules comes in, busts through the door, straddles him, and starts making out with him, which, incredible move. First of all, I wish I had the balls to do that. She mouths on her way out, she's like, always take the dare, to Phoebe, and the book takes a little bit of a break here, and we get a reporter segment with the principal of Bayview High, indicating there's been another death. We just get it's just another moment of
we
foreshadowing.
don't know who yet. We just know it's gonna happen. And I honestly, I really like this as a way to kind of break up like all of the stuff that's going on, to kind of tease us with like, here's what's happening. Here's what Karen's cooking. We're in Karen's kitchen right now.
Karen's Kitchen Confidential.
Yeah, Karen's cooking. In about 45 pages, you're gonna get the hottest of bombs dropped on you.
For her next dish, she's seasoning with a little bit of Knox, working at Until Proven. That's my segue. He's
great.
Working at Until Proven. He's helping with this Diagnostio. It sounds like a pizza. It's Italian. A Diagnostio case.
You're saying it different every single time.
The D case, where an officer involved in dealing drugs tried to pin it on, I can't get over it, I'm sorry. He tried to pin it on convicted people so that he could get away with it. Kind of similar thing happened in Boston. But anyways, I digress. He's doing that. He tried to pin it, and Knox is unveiling mail when he sees a death threat to Eli, and he's like, what is this? What do I do with this?
Yeah, he goes to one of the other lawyers, Sandeep, and he's like, hey, Sandeep, like, I just want to show you something really, really scary came in the mail. Sandeep shrugs it off. He's like, oh, buddy, we get death threats all the time. Put him in the death threat pile. Like, could you imagine being just so, like, lax about that? I feel like I would be terrified.
No, my anxiety would be peak. But he puts it in the death threat file because that's what the lawyers want. Yep. And after this, Maeve kind of catches him up to speed at the cafe about the revenge forum and trying to piece together some things when Knox takes note of the bruises on her arm, which she tries to cover up by saying she's bumped into things. No cancer here.
No cancer
Least
here.
of my worries.
And a few Knox sightings in the cafe. First, you notice that Phoebe's brother Owen comes in to just get some food, get some dinner, which like he takes note as like something he does normally. And then also a really intense guy shows up. That's all he's described as being very intense.
Mm-hmm.
And he shows up like asking and like almost yelling for Phoebe. And he gets kicked out essentially for being too intense.
The moment gets weirder when Maeve gets a truth or dare text. She's like, oh no, I'm up next.
Yeah, she's the next player.
But she literally has no time to worry about this. She's like, you know what? I gotta put the cancer thing front and foremost. She calls the doctor's office. They say that they can't give her any advice or see her without a guardian present, which she's upset about.
Yeah.
And Louise finally...
Time's ticking. She has 3 hours left to settle if she's going to truth or dare.
Louise does coax her out of the cafe to go ride on his handlebars, to go look at his thinking spot. Because he wants Maeve...
Arboretum.
Exactly. He wants Maeve to know that he's not just a dude, bro. He thinks.
And he also wants Maeve to know that outside is fun.
Outside is fun. There's a lot of things Maeve's learning right now.
Yeah, so they go to this arboretum, and it's like kind of a cute little moment. I will say, in the ranking of cute moments we've seen, it is no Nate and Bronwyn, but it is still cute. Yeah. But Maeve, being the little worrywart that she is, they kind of get a little flirty, and Maeve just like really lets the moment fizzle and really just like hard breaks on it. It is not fun.
I mean, I guess she does have a lot on her mind. I feel like I would just completely fumble the ball because he says that he almost asked her out last year, but he didn't because Cooper didn't want him to because he's a player. And if a guy said this to me, I would think he was gaslighting me. I would think he was kidding. I would be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Why are you playing a joke on me? That's mean.
Yeah. But something that Maeve really does care about is after this moment fizzles, she does find another Darkest Mind post that he says that he really wants to outdo Simon. So more of her, sleuthing the internet's coming to something, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, she's looking for that truth, baby. She's gonna find it.
Yeah, and she also decides that she's not going to play the game. She's like, whatever, I can't imagine what they have on me. It'll be fine.
Yeah,
I'm not doing anything with this.
she's not going to, which kind of sucks because Phoebe is getting bullied now on Instagram. Someone put up a
Yeah.
sign kind of indicating her and Emma are offering threesomes, which feels very high school, a very high school
Yeah.
thing to focus on. But the two sisters seem to have united for a bit because they're at Owen's spelling bee. They mutually shut down a girl, Monica, who Jules is now friends with because she's kind of like harassing Phoebe out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And Derek, Emma's ex-boyfriend, the one that Phoebe hooked up with, DMs Phoebe asking to talk to her, but Phoebe's like, I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to do this. There's no way. I'm not going to talk to him.
Yeah. And Emma also during this finds out that Phoebe and Brandon used to be kissing under the bleachers. And Emma gets really pissed because obviously Brandon's making both of their lives a living hell out of this.
Yeah.
And this little POV moment ends with a little taste of Maeve's secret has dropped, but we don't find out what it is right then. We just know that it's like a yo moment.
Yeah. We switched to Knox for this moment, and he's running around at Until Proven. He doesn't have time to check his phone, which is really not good because when he checks his
Yeah.
phone, Maeve has called him a lot and is like, listen, I want you to hear it from me first. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at text from unknown. And the secret is that she basically dumped him because he couldn't get it up, and Knox
Which
is pissed.
Which, like, and she does say it's not fully true, but it definitely, like, kind of, like, added into, like, their entire, like, realization that, like, maybe we're just not meant for each other. But I do have to ask Meggie, scale of 1 to 10, how bad is this true?
Okay, I mean, like, as a girl, I would, okay, if I was like 16, I would be stressed that people know that I want to have sex now, because then that makes you a target.
Yeah.
Um, I wouldn't think it's as bad for me as hilariously, like, I think that's a much worse thing for the guy.
Yeah, I don't think this is anything for Maeve. I think, like, this is a 2 in Maeve's perspective. Like, this is something you can come back from. Plenty of people are having sex.
Because,
Maeve doesn't even get any flack for this, but for Knox, I'd put this at, like, a 6. It's
yeah,
pretty
I
embarrassing.
think, like, as Phoebe points it out later, because she gets slut shamed, and then Knox is slut shamed for not having sex, basically.
Yeah.
But like, I think if a guy can't get it up, that's like high school food for fodder. They're
Yeah.
gonna eat that shit up. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's unfortunate. Poor guy.
Yeah, so needless to say, Knox and Maeve aren't on the best of terms after this. So Maeve at school the next day, taking in the sights. There's a bunch of wet, like cold, limp noodles on Knox's locker, which is like, who has that much time to put into bullying someone? Like, you spent the 20 minutes it takes to cook pasta to bring to school and glue it on a locker. Get a fucking hobby. Oh my god.
I know,
Um
seriously, there's so much work that has to go into that.
Right? Like, Jesus, if you just applied that to your studies, think of how far you could go.
Well, I guess the bullying works because in the theater later that day, Maeve learns that Knox quit the school play,
Yeah.
which, makes sense because people are going to be like, oh, play? That's gay. That's a gay thing.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't get it up.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
yeah.
Maeve goes to the cafe after school, and she's there like late. It's pretty dead. And Mr. Santos is like, let me make you some dinner. You're always here. You haven't eaten. You also seem very stressed lately, which is really, really cute. And
Yeah.
she's like, I don't really have any money. He's like, I'll make it for you. And Luis comes in and starts taking over this little dinner making sesh and says, hey, Pops, you can get out of here. So now Luis and Maeve are alone in the kitchen.
And they are bonding. She is catching him up to
Yeah.
speed with everything that's happening at school. He's like, that place is really toxic. And she's like, yeah. And this kind of intimate moment is making her want to make a move with him.
And they kiss. They start making out in the kitchen, which I imagine is a health code violation, but who am I to judge?
He picks her up and puts her on the counter. Definitely a health code violation, but not a Meggie
Yeah.
and Laura violation. That's a Meggie and Laura.
No,
We want that to happen.
Yeah, we want that stuff. That's a big thumbs up from Meggie and Laura.
They are positively going at it. Like his brother comes in and Maeve has not realized how far her hands are up his shirt, which I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, they would have fucked. They truly would have
Yeah.
fucked.
Oh my god, no. And like the Manny is Luis's brother, and he's described as really like a bumbling idiot. Like he's always in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's not good at being in a restaurant. And Manny kind of tries to like leave, but this does ruin the moment.
Yeah.
And it also gives somehow gives Maeve this like light bulb realization that like she was talking about this whole Knox situation about him not getting it up inside Cafe Contigo, which is not a private space, so someone easily could have overheard her.
She's
Like,
like, I'm
duh,
so
Maeve.
dumb.
What? How could you not think of that?
I know. How can you not even like remember too that you talked to your sister about that? I feel like every time me and
Yeah,
my sister talked about like intimate things with guys, I was like, this is pure bonding. We're really bonding this time moment. So I don't know how
yeah.
she forgot about it.
I don't know. Now we're checking in with Phoebe. She is giving Jules a ride to school. She's still not really doing the whole Emma thing. And Phoebe's kind of had it with Jules liking Nate situation, and Jules is not taking it well.
No, she's being kind of a cunt about it. She's like, all right, fine.
Yeah.
How about I go for Brandon? And Phoebe's like, no, dude. Like, none of them. They're like,
Yeah,
and
they are
these
they're
two,
all bad.
they're just not on the same page whatsoever. So
No.
they get to school, they kind of disperse, and Phoebe runs into Knox, who seems miserable. And she's like, hey,
Yeah.
buddy, how about we skip school? Let's go get coffee. Take your mind off some
Yeah.
things.
And they do. They have a little fun, like little hooky last period time. And of course, as they're leaving the mall, who do they run into but Jules and her new best friend Monica, who are just like being little tittery about this. Like, ooh, we saw Phoebe and Knox getting coffee, like as if
Ugh.
it means anything. They suck. Jules offers to give Knox a ride to his internship, but he's like, no, I'll take the shortcut. And Phoebe realizes a few moments into her haphazard driving, her words, not mine, that a bunch of sirens are going back towards the mall. So, did something happen?
We're going to get an answer on that in the next scene where Maeve, Phoebe, and Addie are preparing wedding favors for Eli and Ashton's wedding when Ashton, who is trying to hook up Addie with Eli's cousin Daniel, which I thought was very fun,
Yeah,
gets a text from Eli to turn on the news. And they do,
yeah,
and it's a report about the roof of that half constructed parking garage we mentioned earlier collapsing, where one student is dead and one is in the hospital injured. And Maeve is like freaking out
yeah,
because this is when Phoebe tells her that Knox went there that night to go
yeah,
to work.
yeah. But we do learn very quickly that Knox is not dead. In fact, it is Brandon, of all people, who died. But Knox is in the hospital. And like we also learned that apparently Sean and Jules and Monica were all there, and Sean saved Knox from falling too.
Yeah, he punched him in
And
the face because he was trying to stop him,
yeah,
which
so
I don't get, but
Knox
okay.
immediately says this is a lie. He clearly is concussed. He cannot remember like the exact situation that was happening, but he really thinks that is not what happened.
And the reporter talked to Brandon's dad. Brandon's dad is so pissed. He's like, shit like this just doesn't happen. Like, I'm definitely going to sue. And
Yeah.
in the Vengeance is Mine forum, Darkest Mind is posting again. And he's mad this time because Bayview 2020, the person he was exchanging
Yeah.
revenge comments with, has gone silent.
Yeah.
No one
And he's
there.
like, don't ghost me. So things aren't looking good for Brandon. Things definitely aren't looking good for Darkest Mind.
Yeah.
um, now we're about a week and a half later. It's we're checking in with Phoebe. Jules and Sean are dating now. They've apparently grown super close since this whole Brandon's death thing.
Which, I
And
mean,
then
I
we
get
also
the
learned that
trauma bonding, but if a guy slut shamed one of your best girlfriends in public,
like right.
what does he feel?
I know Jules is a social climber. She sucks.
She
We also learned
does.
that the truth or dare game is not anything anymore. That really fizzled out as well. But Emma is sort of being cordial to Phoebe again. So like there is some sort of silver lining here.
Yeah, Brandon's funeral was a week ago. That also took place. Everyone's having mixed feelings about it. But Knox is kind of an addition to Emma and Phoebe now. And
Yeah.
they're all driving home because Knox has agreed to play Bounty Wars with Owen finally. When they get a flat tire and Knox changes it, which I thought was very hot.
Yeah, extremely hot.
Hey, I don't know how to change a flat.
Same.
So they go inside the apartment. Phoebe and Knox kind of catch up more about how Eli's been getting a lot of death threats from seemingly the same person. And then
Mhm.
Owen gets home. They play Bounty Wars with him. And Phoebe's like, you know what? Okay, I'll hang out with you guys in a minute. I just got to go get a hair tie from Emma. And she goes into Emma's room and she realizes that Emma's like not good. She's like, "Are you
Yeah.
sick? What is up?" And then she realizes she's hammered. She's so drunk.
Yeah, Emma's like bawling her eyes out and is so drunk, which is very unlike her like straight A student prim and proper sister.
Mm-hmm.
So something's going on. Um Also in this moment, Knox does finally have a memory of Sean at the construction site. And he remembers Sean taking a video. So he was like, I bet if I could get to Sean's phone, I could do that. And he does try, but like it goes really badly.
Yeah, he is on his way to the cafe. When he runs into Sean and he tries to get his phone, but Sean is like, "Oh, dude, you don't need my phone. I see you have your phone." And Knox didn't really think that one over.
Yeah.
Before he goes to the cafe, though, he overhears a conversation between his parents about a settlement his mom
Yeah.
came to agreement with regarding Brandon, and that he should have gotten a harsher punishment. Knox tries to ask
Yeah.
follow-up questions. He doesn't get many. So that's a
Nope.
mysterious thing.
Something suspicious. Um, Luis also starts to ask Knox like some questions about like what happened at the site, and Knox kind of tells him what he told him, like, yeah, I was trying to see if there's something on on Sean's phone. And the intense guy is back at the cafe too, being as suspicious as ever.
They gotta stop doing that. Why is intense guy there?
No.
The gang takes a little field trip. We go on a little
Field
road trip.
trip.
We're going to
Woo!
Goodwin Field for our happy montage. They're at Cal State for Cooper's game. Oh, and the happy montage quickly ends because Maeve gets a nosebleed again.
No, yeah.
She goes in the
And
bathroom, she's like cleaning it up, and when she comes out, she sees Luis and Monica and Jules and Sean, and she's just like, I just gotta take my shit out on Luis because it seems like he's on a double date and I'm mad.
yeah. Maeve is very jealous, and she ends up like really laying into Luis of like, wow, you're so like, basically calls him like a vapid dude, bro.
Yeah.
And Luis is like, great. So now that I know what you really think of me, I'd love to, as a friend, get your phone number. Ouch. And we find out that it was so he could send her the video that he just got from Sean's phone,
Mm-hmm.
because he was trying to freaking help Maeve and you ruined it. Um, but this is all just as stressful because she gets yet another nosebleed at this game. Nate comes and finds her, like freaking out. He takes her to a place where they can sit and talk. And she talks about like basically all the things she's stressed about, especially like for some reason she's very stressed that him and Bronwyn aren't together. And he's like, hey, don't worry. Like Bronwyn and we're always going to get back together. Like we will be fine. Stop worrying about us.
It is really sweet. And he does convince
Yeah.
her to tell her parents about the cancer thing.
Yes.
And she's like, okay. So Maeve does that, gets it out of the way later that night, and the next day she shows Knox and Phoebe the videos, and they go through them, and it seems like Brandon's dare was to jump on the roof, but he falls through, and then that's when Knox showed up. They don't feel like they
Yeah.
can do a lot with this video. Maeve's like, I gotta go because I have a doctor's appointment for my remission symptoms, and this is where Knox and her kind of make up because like they're not gonna
Yeah.
fight if he thinks his best friend has cancer.
Exactly. Yeah. They kind of okay, maybe this isn't that important in the grand scheme of things, which is good.
Yeah.
And then also as they're leaving this drama office that they're hanging out in, just in like the auditorium that's like outside of it, there's this kid Matthias who's just like weirdly hanging out there, and he just tells Phoebe like, "Oh yeah, Emma left school, so you have to find another ride home." Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
weird.
she goes on home. Phoebe's mom also calls on the way and is like, Emma didn't show
Yeah.
up to do a walkthrough for this restaurant, which is very unlike her. She
Yeah.
goes into her room to check on her, and Emma is drunk again
On gin.
on
Drunk
gin.
on gin.
She asks if Phoebe loved Derek. Phoebe's like, no, that was a huge mistake. And she whispers that she just didn't think he'd keep going. And Phoebe is like, who? Who are you talking about? But
And that
Emma passes
but
out.
she passes out again. She passes out again. We don't get anything.
No time.
And then we're back at Knox at the lawyer's office. There is more death threats coming in, so they're going to start investigating them because they can tell they're all coming from the same person. He also knows that Nate left his coat at the office because he was talking about like the construction site with the lawyers, and he's like, I'm gonna be a good little intern and also go get some answers of my own. I'm gonna go give Nate his coat back.
Mm-hmm.
So he treks over to Nate's house, and there's a party going on because Nate lives at a house now with a bunch of other people his age. And Nate, ever the lone wolf type, is doing work in his room while this rager is going on.
Yeah, he's like doing construction work for Knox's dad. And
Yeah.
Knox comes through and notices this, and Nate kind of explains that if you're paranoid enough, the parking garage kind of seemed to be tampered with in the fact that
Yeah.
someone removed beams from it. So he's like, maybe they did it for Brandon to fall through. I don't know. And so Knox is like, all right, well, I'm going to nonstop think about this until I get home.
Yeah. And Knox does go home and have a really, really bad fight with his dad. His
Yeah.
dad is a big boo from me. Basically, like it's a lot about like his dad's mad at him for going through the construction site and how bad that looks for him. Yada yada yada.
Yeah, they seem to get really mad at each other. And they leave it at that. And the next day, Knox kind of reports back to Maeve and Phoebe about the messing of the landing. And they're trying to figure out, like, who would be a suspect? Would it be Sean? Would it be anyone? Who knows? When Maeve's oncologist calls, and she just has an iron deficiency. It's no cancer.
Good for her. It's just iron deficiency. Some iron pills will cure that right up.
Right up.
And Maeve uses this as a sign from the gods in the heavens to text Louise to try to like apologize and get back out of the friend zone and like kind of reincarnate things. So she's got some work cut out for her.
I mean, shoot your shot. That's a way to celebrate a good diagnosis.
After this, Phoebe does run into Jules in the bathroom, and Jules and Phoebe, like, we're friends for a while, and Phoebe can just tell that something's off about Jules. She feels like she's like faking a lot of her like interactions with people and just like a lot of her just day to day. So it's being really, really suspicious.
Yeah, she tries to dig into Jules a bit about the night that Brandon died, but Jules doesn't want to talk about it and makes a jab about her hanging out with Maeve and Knox before she leaves.
Yeah.
Phoebe gets a note when she goes to work from a coworker, Ahmed, and it is from the intense guy who has been coming in, and it says to meet at the gazebo at Callahan Park at 5:30 and to not ignore him. And she's like, I don't know who's left this. And Knox is like, I think we should do a stakeout. You know what? I think we should follow him.
Yeah, she the only person she can think of it being is Derek, because she's like, he's been in my DMs and I'm refusing to talk to him because obviously he ruined my relationship with my sister. But let's all go to the park. So Louise, Maeve, Knox, Phoebe, they are all going to the park. Maeve and Louise, for some reason, are going to stay alone in the car.
Ooh.
Nudge, while Phoebe and Knox are going to like gingerly tiptoe their way to the meeting spot to see if they can like see the guy and see who it is without him seeing them, which is really funny.
Yeah.
And Maeve really tries to kind of explain everything that's going on. And while they're kind of talking things out and hashing things out, they notice the intense guy is walking back to the car, and Maeve does what only any of us could think of doing so that he doesn't see that they're watching him.
So he shuts up.
She hops into Luis's lap and just starts making out with him, so they just look like any other couple at the park.
They only break apart, because couples make out right next to the playground.
Yeah.
They only break apart when Phoebe knocks on the window and Maeve is like, whoa, how did I recline the seat for us to make out? I don't even remember doing that. And Phoebe's trying to like block so Knox can't see. And they are gonna get in a high speed chase following this guy's small blue car.
because Phoebe does not know who this guy is. So they're like, let's follow him and see if we can find answers.
Yeah.
And while they're on this high-speed chase, Knox and Maeve have like Googled the license plate and the make and model of the car. They find that it belongs to this guy named David Jackson. And they're like, this guy's probably Darkest Mind. So they're getting some answers.
But are they?
And
Because the forum updates with a new post from Darkest Mind saying, fuck you, Phoebe, we had a deal. And now they're confused. They're like, how is
yeah.
Phoebe involved?
Yeah. And so now Maeve's like, is Phoebe hiding something? I thought we could trust her. Maybe they can, maybe they can't.
They were like, is it an ex? Is that why he killed Brandon? And Knox is like, by the way, I forgot to mention, I overheard this little conversation my parents were having about him getting off easy from case. So Knox and Maeve are like, all right, we got to figure out what that is. That might be helpful.
Yeah. He's
So
literally like, Maeve, you're going to hack into the mainframe of my mom's
yeah.
laptop.
They hack into his mom's PC and she just like keeps trying birth dates of like each sibling he has, which gets them in. And she gets the files that she needs. She's going to look at them later because Knox's sister is pulling up. And there's 2 encrypted cases featuring a Brandon Weber that she's emailed to herself. She's like, I'm going to read it.
Yes. But meanwhile, back at Phoebe's apartment, things are going from bad to worse for Phoebe. Not only some weird guy stalking her, she walks into her bedroom where Emma is just choking in her bed. And Owen also comes in her own vomit, and Owen comes in. He's like, what's going on? And she's like, Owen, call an ambulance. And it's bad. They have to go to the hospital.
She has alcohol poisoning.
Yeah, not good at all.
Maeve is having an okay time, a much better time with her sister because she's reunited with her sister from Yale. She's like, you know what? I'm gonna wait to update Phoebe on my findings about the intense guy situation.
Yeah.
And her and Bronwyn's gonna help with the rehearsal dinner. It's rehearsal dinner night. Maeve is like, I gotta figure out what is up with Phoebe's stalker. So her and Knox, they kind of follow Phoebe's stalker's car from this like cafe that he's been seen at back to his house for stakeout round 2. And in the car, Knox finally reads the note that the intense guy wrote for Phoebe, and he starts piecing together that it's the same font as the death threats that Eli's been getting at until proven. So they're like, maybe we should look at the Diagnostino piece, the pizza piece. And
yeah,
they realize that the police officer has a younger brother, Jared, who's on probation. And they're like, okay, this has to be him.
And they realize he's the intense guy.
Yeah.
And at this moment, Darkest Mind posts an update, so they keep following him. And Knox, while Maeve is like hightailing it towards him, is like, let me open the file that Maeve has that on that computer now. And we learn that on that case, that Brandon was at the construction site because it was Bring Your Child to Work Day, and he was the one who was operating the crane or the forklift that dropped the concrete on Phoebe's dad. Isn't that crazy?
So they start being like, oh my god, did Phoebe actually orchestrate this? And I was thinking it too.
Yeah, 100%. But they keep following this intense guy because he winds up at the spot for the rehearsal dinner.
Not good. Eli is not picking up his phone either because he told Ashton that he would not be on his phone. So they have to like monitor Jared from afar. He kind of tosses his backpack under the deck of the restaurant, and they're like, all right, well, this is a crawl space. And I think we both know what's in that backpack. So Knox tries to go first. He can't get through. Maeve goes in. And when they unzip the backpack, it's a homemade bomb.
Yeah, like I love what Karen did here because she really said, I feel like we're maybe like a 30 of intensity right now. Let's throw a bomb in there. Let's crank up this dial and make it a freaking bomb. So of course Maeve and Knox are like, oh shit. And they just start sprinting to find a place to drop this bomb. And they like toss it over like
the Bayview Arbitorium or whatever.
Yeah. arboretum, and they also find Nate and Bronwyn like leaving that exact area because they're like back together now, and they're like, hey, you two, love that you're back together. We can't explain right now. There's a bomb behind you. Run with us. So now all four of them are just sprinting when the bomb goes off.
And in the cut to explosion, we have one of those moments where, like in the movie, it cuts to explosion, and then we get a nice memory. And it's
Aww.
Phoebe having a memory with her father making s'mores. She's doing a little bit better than her sister Emma, who's requiring some help. And Phoebe tries to get help too, and he's like, listen, your sister needs more help. And she wakes up from this little dream. She's like, you know what? I'm going to start making amends with everything, and I need to figure out why Derek keeps trying to message me. So she calls Derek. He doesn't pick up. She is in the same hospital that like the whole wedding party's at now.
Well, I mean, I feel like there's only so many nearby hospitals
Yeah, I
here.
guess that is true. I don't know in San Diego. But the nurse
Yeah,
at the
well, yeah.
hospital lets her know that a bomb went off at the wedding rehearsal, and Phoebe's like, are they here? And the nurse is like, you gotta go downstairs. So she does. She's like,
Yeah. Literally
running.
everybody is in the waiting room. People look very disheveled, very distraught. And we learned that like everybody's fine except for Nate, who like
Aw,
got a bunch of shrapnel in his arm because he was blocking the bomb from Bronwyn, of
of
course.
course.
But we know he's gonna be okay. He's just a little tattered and bruised, but he'll be fine.
Derek at
Um,
this moment calls Phoebe back.
bad timing, right?
I know, seriously, can you imagine? You're like, oh god, my friend has like shards in his arm, and now I have to
Yeah,
talk to my sister's ex-boyfriend, who he comes in hot with the worst thing you could say, which is like, hey, you know what, I really think that you and I have something here and we should try. And she's like, no, why did you tell everyone about us? And he's like, uh well, first of all, I didn't, but like I told your sister, I
like
told your
after it
sister
happened
about it.
immediately. He told her immediately after it happened. So we're like, oh shit, Emma knew the whole time. And when Phoebe goes back to Emma's room, there's a detective there. And we learn that Emma was trying to frame Phoebe for this entire truth or dare game. And Emma is immediately like regretting everything, saying it went too far. So it's just like, what the actual fuck?
I know. Jared, the guy who was messaging them, he since he successfully killed Brandon, he was really mad because he wanted to kill Eli for jailing his brother. And that's not really what Emma was in for with this.
No.
She
No,
didn't want
Emma was
anyone to
like,
die.
yeah, Emma just thought it'd be like a fun little like brain teaser, but no, it went way too far, way too fast. Now Emma's obviously on the line for this as
Because
well.
Emma, one day when she was like looking to see how much funds were there for her for college, she found the file that saying her dad was killed by Brandon. Which, can you imagine how bad that would be to like find your sister making
Yeah,
out with him? You're like, are you
yeah,
fucking kidding? But you don't want to tell her?
yeah. Well,
Ugh,
why wouldn't you tell her?
I don't
Why
know.
wouldn't you tell her what you found, Emma?
I don't
Why?
know.
But
They're gonna
we're gonna
lawyer
break
up.
from this little debunk that we just got
Yeah,
because it is the wedding day. The Lawton family is missing, of course, from this charade that's going on. But Maeve's at the wedding. She dances with Louise. And Maeve decides she's going to apply to Peru with Addie to teach English for the summer.
that's fun.
Something fun. Her and Knox have a little talk time.
Yeah, Knox
And
is being really thoughtful though. He's like, I gotta go take Phoebe a piece of cake. Like, I just want to see
yeah,
how she's doing.
yeah, so he brings her a cake and a bunch of lawyers for Emma that she could look into, which is really, really nice.
I know,
Um,
seriously.
they go to Phoebe's rooftop and they have a little moment, but Phoebe breaks down and then they start kissing and Knox is like, let's put a pin in this. You are going through a lot right now, and I really don't want this to be a thing where you're just like into me because like of all the shit that's going
It's a
down.
really sweet moment. She's like
It
stressed
is.
because she's like, did Brandon die because of like me? Because my dad's dead, my whole family's falling apart. And when he hugs her, she confuses his heart beating really fast for her and not the fact that he's afraid of heights. Which I think is
Yeah.
really cute. And like later
It
after
is
they're done
really
kissing,
cute.
she's like, I'm so stupid. I just thought your heart was beating fast for me. And I was like, oh, Phoebe, I just wanted to hug her.
Phoebe, yeah.
He does get hard, and
Later,
he's like, just, I guess this is a sign that everything works, which makes her laugh,
ooh,
which I was like, that's kind of
ooh.
funny. That's cute.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. We do a little fast forward moment to when Phoebe goes back to school, and she's of course very nervous because of everything that's gone down. She does talk to Jules about Brandon's death. They seem to kind of be on good terms at the end of this whole thing, which
Mhm.
is weird to me, but okay. And
Yeah.
after school, she has a meeting with Emma's new lawyer, Martin, and Emma really explains like her side of the story about how Truth or Dare was Jared's idea. And Emma doesn't know how Jared learned that truth about Maeve. Obviously, we know it was something that he overheard at the cafe.
Mhm.
Um, and Martin, the lawyer, is like, okay, this is all great, but there's still like an inconsistency in my transcripts because you say you backed out, but the conversation kept going.
Yeah, she says
And
she stopped talking February 19th, and the convo
he's
started
like, no,
back
you
up
didn't.
the next day. And it shows Phoebe apologizing and that she's still in, and Emma's like, I didn't send those. Did he send them
Yeah.
himself? And they notice from Owen's spelling um competition that bazaar is spelled bazaar, like a marketplace.
Yeah. And that was
And
the word he always got
he
wrong.
was,
So they're like, oh shit, Owen picked this back up.
yeah,
And they decide, they like, Emma and Phoebe exchange a look and they decide to keep quiet about it.
which
Isn't
is
that, which is like,
insane.
how could you not say something?
I
How
mean,
could you not?
oh
How
my
could
god.
you?
I mean,
I'm
we're
like,
the younger siblings, so maybe that's what it is. I think if you're an older sibling, you would definitely be like, I'm not going to say anything.
I mean, honestly, but if they're like the reason like people died, maybe you gotta say something.
I don't think I would rat out a sibling.
I don't know. This is a weird. This is a moral dilemma because obviously, like this entire situation tormented a lot of your friends.
Yeah.
A lot of people. People died. Almost a bunch of other people almost died because there was a bomb involved. Like you might have to say something.
Mm-mm. I would take it to my grave. I would say that he started talking to himself yet again.
Would you? Would you be fine with Emma after all of this if she tried to frame you?
No.
I was kind of I that's the thing. I was really shocked that like she just dropped the whole like yeah, Emma literally like almost framed you for murder thing really really quickly.
Yeah, I know. I would not be okay with that sibling for, I think, at least a decade.
Yeah.
I think
I
it would
mean, if
take a
anything
while.
it's like okay, maybe don't rat out the younger sibling, but just keep throwing it on like yeah, my older siblings like
Oh, I'd be
should be in
pissed.
jail.
Like, you know better, you know? You know better.
Yeah.
I think I had
Ugh,
a little bit of I think I liked this book more, surprisingly. I think the first one was like really good in establishing and also a really
yeah.
good book. But for
They're
some
both
reason,
really good.
the stakes were so high, and like I wanted Phoebe and Knox to be together so fucking bad the whole book.
Ah, I hope we get more of that in book 3.
Hey, and we'll see.
We'll see. Um, okay. Oh, okay. I feel like I could keep talking about this ending forever, but we'll save it for like our final episode. Maggie, let's talk about who the biggest liar of the episode is.
Oh, okay. The biggest lie. Oh, okay. The biggest liar. I mean, gotta be Owen. You
It's
know.
gotta be Owen. I was like literally about to be like, maybe it's Emma, but I was like, no, it has to be Owen. Owen was just getting his little cafe food, going upstairs to play bounty hunters.
He wasn't telling
And
anyone he was having a conversation with a stranger online.
yeah, yikes.
Owen.
Not
That's a
good. Just
liar
there.
behavior.
All right, and that'll bring us to our top 5 for this episode. As we know in this book, they hang out with Cafe Contigo a lot. So Maggie and I were saying, here are our top 5 other places that our little Bayview crew could hang out other than Cafe Contigo.
Yeah, you're in San Diego. You got to.
You gotta.
Gotta. Coming in at well, do you want to start or do you want me to?
I'll start. Well, we'll
You
alternate for
start.
the what we know.
You
Okay,
start.
so this is a really good one, we think, because we know that Maeve never really got a lot at Cafe Contigo because she didn't have money. So what more friendly of a budget option than going to a little bowling alley? You can get a few hours very, very cheap.
Mhm.
Feels like a great place for them to, go during the day, have a soda, play some lanes, go to at night for cosmic bowling.
Absolutely.
It's open so early and so late. Perfect spot.
Day and night activity. Number 4, I really think that they would have a great time if they went to an alien convention. I know
I
Roswell, New
agree.
Mexico is nearby. I know there's a really big one there. Maybe check it out in the summer,
Yeah. Um, we also think that they could go to the San Diego Zoo. That could be a fun place for all of them to kind of gather. Maybe they're like, hey, meet me in front of the lions and we can talk about who's been lion lately. Lots of
There you
metaphor and
go.
pun potential here when you think about it.
Maybe they have the same situation at the San Diego Zoo going on with the St. Louis Zoo where like a peacock
Yeah.
will just be walking around randomly out of the exhibit.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
That'd be crazy.
Coming in at number 2, really like this idea that Laura pitched, but we're thinking about a monster truck rally. I think personally,
I,
Cooper's boyfriend Chris would be really into it.
I also just think the comedic point of view here, where they would just be trying to talk about like all the things that they're finding on the forums, like over the like engines of these monster trucks.
Hmm.
It'd be really funny. It'd be a hard place, but it'd be funny.
Yeah, for sure.
And number 1, we love this idea that Meg came up with. We think that they should be spending their time at a Ren fair to really discuss everything that's going on, because this way they could wear disguises when you think about it.
I looked up the biggest one in California, and it's Irwindale, the Pleasure Fair of Southern California. So if
Ooh,
someone wants to
pleasure
hop in a car
fair.
and go there, go nuts.
Go nuts. And go nuts for us. This is our episode. That was it.
102th episode.
102th.
Yep, 102th episode.
And if you want to keep rooting us on, make sure you are following us at Meggie and Laura on Instagram, at Y'all We Read It on TikTok and Twitter.
Yep, we are also at email. If you want to send a little,
We're at email.
we're at email. You want to send a death note in the form of magazine clips that are clipped out. I still
Ransom
really
note.
want one. I want someone to go
Yeah,
through
we
the
love a
effort
ransom note.
of scanning it into their computer at MeggieandLauraPresent@gmail.com.
And hey, tell your friends that you like this podcast. That could be cool. Tell your next time your friend asks what's been up, you say, "Hey, listen to this podcast."
Yeah, we're great for road trips and for hanging out with the fam.
Yeah, and for hanging out, just hang out with us. You,
Hang out with us.
us, great time.
Yeah.
But we'll be back next week because we'll be actually covering the 3rd book. One of us is back. One of us is back.
Yep.
And we're actually going to be doing a special Tuesday release on the day the book is coming out. So if you don't want spoilers, don't listen to it. But we're really excited. But that's what we're doing. We will see you on release day for Karen McManus's final book in the One of Us trilogy. And we'll see you then.
Try to beat us. Try to speed read.
Do it. We dare you.